Fought for workers all the time, every day. Pension justice, she led the way. Oh, and she left behind work to be done. Let's keep it going, have some fun. She was a pension right, hero to ride. Every day, hero for life. She was a pension right, hero so bright. Every day, hero for life. She was a pension right, hero for life. Every day, hero so bright. She was a pension right, hero so bright. Every day, every day, hero for life.
Thank you so much to Celeste Crenshaw, Deb Tidwell, and the Glenn Pearson Trio for that beautiful song. You're in for a treat tonight because you're going to be hearing more of that song a little bit later. So sit tight or stand tight, whatever you're doing. As most of you know, I'm Karen Friedman, and I am so happy to see all of you. Thank you for coming and supporting us. If I start crying, I'm sorry. It's like a mirage seeing so many friends and colleagues in one room, in person, not on Zoom. It's truly magical. Everything about this event is perfect. The company, the food, the music, this spectacular museum, which I hope you all had time to tour. There's only one thing missing, and that's Karen Ferguson. But given Karen's tendency for always being late for so many meetings over her lifetime, as almost everybody has experienced, there's a part of me that still expects her to run through that door at any moment with her hair flying, smiling that magnificent smile in that and then giggling in that trademark Ferguson way, putting everyone at ease. I only wish. Over the past decade, Karen and I stood together at these events to present Retirement Income Superhero Awards to an impressive array of individuals who contributed greatly to the retirement security of workers and retirees. Well, this year, we're honoring Karen as our everyday hero and our ultimate and forever retirement income superhero. But this event is not just about Karen because, as you all know, she was very modest, and she would have hated the attention, all of it. It's about the Pension Rights Center. We worked together for decades as sidekicks, as friends and colleagues, and now Karen Ferguson is in all of our DNA. We learned from her, we grew with her, and together we helped build PRC into a champion for retirement security. And together, with our great staff, consultants, fellows, board of directors, and all of you, we remain true to Karen's vision. PRC will always be the voice of consumers in Congress, regulatory agencies, and in the media. We will address key inequities and shortcomings in the current retirement system, especially for women and people of color. Our legal program, working with the pension counseling projects and all over the country, and Anna's here tonight, will ensure that people get the benefits they earned. And we will work to fulfill Karen's long-time and long-term dream to expand coverage for everybody and create a secure and adequate retirement system on top of a strengthened Social Security system. Can I hear a retirement roar of approval? When I look out at the audience tonight, I see people from every facet of PRC's history. Retirees, you'll hear from them later. Women's groups, like the National Women's Law Center. Business groups like ARA and ABC. Government leaders, and you'll hear from Ali. Pension counseling projects. Hill staff. Kendra's here, and Kevin's here, and a lot of others. Everyone. You are our collaborators, you're our friends, you're our partners, and sometimes some of you are our sparring partners. Tonight's program is a tribute to Karen and all of you. You'll hear from experts and allies who worked with us in the 1980s to increase federal protections for widows and spouses. You'll hear from retirees like Janice Winston and Mary Rich, whose pensions we helped save at Verizon, yay, and the hospital center at Orange. Yeah, go Mary, go Janice, thank you. You're gonna hear from retired truck drivers, spouses, and musicians who came here from all over the country, not just to celebrate Karen Ferguson, but also the enactment of the Butch Lewis Emergency Pension Plan Relief Act of 2021. And that act now is saving hundreds of underfunded multi-employer plans and the pensions of millions of workers and retirees. It's a fantastic victory. You'll hear from our business partners who are working with us on Common Ground initiatives, and from government officials, policymakers, funders, board members, and a video of Ralph Nader, who couldn't be here tonight. And at the end of this magnificent program, we will raise a champagne toast to Karen, and then you're going to hear something truly amazing. Remember the Everyday Hero song we started with? Well, that was a variation of a song written for Karen Ferguson and PRC by musicians whose pensions we helped save. The song was recorded, written, and produced in both LA and Nashville by Ellis Hall, who plays with Tower of Power, among others, and Dennis Dreith, who flew in from LA for this event. He's a composer who has performed with such notables as Barbra Streisand, as well as 13 other top-notch musicians who recorded in studios for days and weeks, and they've played with just about everybody from George Harrison, Prince, Taylor Swift, Madonna, and Quincy Jones. Not bad. The song was just finished in the studio within the past few days, and it's airing publicly tonight for the first time with a slideshow at the end of the program. You won't want to miss it. I again want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank particularly our sponsors and funders, and I also want to give a special thank you to our staff, particularly Kyle Garrett and Kate Pixley, who helped put this whole event together. And also David Randolph and Nancy and Deb and all of the board members, and of course Norman Stein, who has helped with everything. Woo! Now it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you the one and only Andrew Ferguson, Karen's son, someone I've known since he was 6 years old, and now he's a professor at the Washington College of Law at American University. Andrew.
I'm dragging my family up here, my wife Alyssa, my son Cole, my daughter Alexa. Before I begin, I want to just say thank you to Karen Friedman and to Kyle and all the Pension Rights Center staff, to Norman, the board. You do not know how much work went into this event. Not just the logistics, but the emotional energy of trying to capture a life in this way. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart how much this means. And I give them all a round of applause. You know, we never really had a memorial service for my mom, partially because that was what my mom would want, partially because of COVID, and partially because it never would have been right without all of you. This was her group, the people who were fellow travelers in a battle for retirement justice and retirement security over years, and it wouldn't have made sense if we didn't have all of you here. So I want to thank you all for being here. It really, really means a lot. Thank you to you. You know, my mom really had two kids, me and the Pension Rights Center. And we kind of grew up together. We're about the same age. I mean, I was the oldest with all that gets me, right, Cole? It gets you a little bit more. But we were lucky because we had a fabulous mom. A mom who was loving, a mom who was caring, a mom who did everything that she could to sort of build us up, to let us survive and thrive and do amazingly. And I look at the Pension Rights Center, I've watched it from afar and a part of the family, and recognize just how much it was a tribute to my mom's love for us, both of us, me and my sibling, the PRC. Most of you know the facts about my mom, right? Sort of the base level facts. She's one of the few women to graduate from her class at Harvard Law School when there weren't women at Harvard Law School. She was the first, or the only woman hired at the law firm in Chicago where she was, only the second woman ever hired. She came back to DC to sort of create this world of public interest law. I'm a law professor now, and all my students are coming to law school, not all, but some are coming to law school, more need to, of course, to come to be public interest lawyers, which didn't exist except for the generation who helped create it and made it into something real. And it was her and Ralph and all the other people in this room who changed what we understand of how law can help ordinary people, how law can fight the power and the powerful and do something good for ordinary people and workers. And she did that. She fought every battle in retirement security and ERISA and pension law over 40 years. She won the Wonder Woman Award. She's a great grandmother to my kids and a great mother-in-law to Alyssa. But I want to talk about just two quick facts that you don't really know about her. It wouldn't make it into her bio. The first fact number one, is that every weekday, Monday through Friday, she walked home from the office around 10:30, 11 with my father. Both of them who were leaving work at that time. Now, my mom didn't actually get to the Pension Rights Center until around 5, which says something about her management style, that she was a better manager by not being there, so I think we'll be okay. But she worked all day. So she was working all day, and then she'd work all night, and they would have these walks home where they would talk about the issues of pension law, labor law, whatever it would be. And it was a tribute to how meaningful her job was, how much it meant to her that she was willing to spend almost all of her waking hours thinking about improving retirement income for ordinary people who needed help, who needed that legal help. Fact 2, even in the last weeks of her life, she was fielding phone calls from all over America for people who needed help with retirement issues. And the people calling had no idea that she was honestly in the last stages of her life. But she would sit with them and talk with them and try to help them, even when there wasn't help to give. And one of the silver linings of the last year was I would come down and have dinner with her every night. I'd have dinner with my family, and then I'd come down for a second dinner with my mom, and we'd talk about her day. And her day was filled with these phone calls. And I sort of asked her, it's like, Mom, like, time is finite. Like, life is finite. Is this really what you want to do? And she's like, this is what I do. This is who I am. And even if I can't help everyone, I can help the person who called. And I can do my best by, even if it's just listening. And that's kind of who she was all the way through her life, was doing that up to the last moments. All of you who are parents know that part of what you do when you raise kids is not about the present, it's about the future. And knowing that what will happen after you are gone, that those people you raise will thrive and do great. And so too with the Pension Rights Center. She built this organization knowing that Karen and the team were going to do wonderful work, and we're going to continue this mission and this life. And also, she knew that it takes a community to raise that family. And so I'm asking you, as sort of a thing, to continue that support for the Pension Rights Center. Continue building this vision out. There's a lot of injustice still in the world of retirement insecurity, as you know. There's a lot of work to be done. And so thank you for being here, and thank you for committing to working with the Pension Rights Center.
Yeah, let me add my thanks for Andrew, those very moving comments. I think we should have another round of applause for the Ferguson family. As you all know, we're here tonight to remember a truly extraordinary person, honor her life and legacy, and celebrate not only the Pension Rights Center's achievements, but the achievements to come. Those of us who serve on the Center's board of directors feel the deep loss of Karen Ferguson, but are excited that going forward, PRC is in the determined, capable, and creative hands of Karen Friedman and the fantastic staff. And I'm going to try not to cry too. It's an evening of tears. The monikers of K1 for Karen Ferguson and K2 for Karen Friedman captured so much. The Karens were an impressive partnership. They seemed to finish each other's thoughts and certainly edited each other's words. In fact, we are at Planet Word partly as a nod to Karen Ferguson's love of words. She used them, as you all know, brilliantly. She edited with the goal of perfection and generally achieved it. In addition to me, you'll be hearing from my fellow board members, Deb Whitman, and on video, Tom Reeder. Also with us in person are Dan Halpern, Robert Roach, and Regina Jefferson, as well as our recently retired Marion Mudd, who just this week became a super sustainer. Unable to join us in person, but equally committed to a powerful future for PRC are Alicia Manel and Ian Lanoff. As everyone knows, Karen was wise, incredibly effective, quick to share credit, even quicker to simply give the credit to others. She was passionate and always kind, gentle, and generous. All of us in this room have stories and insights, and in fact, around the country, have stories and insights about this remarkable person's life and legacy. Every one of you could be here on the dais giving stories and anecdotes and insights about this amazing woman. I hope you had a chance to record your thoughts before the program with a wonderful videographer, Lee Mosley. If you did not, please feel free to record or write a tribute whenever you can. All of them will be permanently stored on the Center's website. We've had so many wonderful recorded and written tributes already. Just this week, we received one from Senator Elizabeth Warren, who wrote in part, "I was proud to work with Karen. I am deeply grateful for her work, which has moved us progressively towards an equitable and secure retirement system. And I look forward to continuing to partner with the Pension Rights Center as we continue her fight." We will now play a recording on the screen of just a few tributes collected in advance on video. So now the video.
This past December, we lost a true champion for the rights of pensioners, Karen Ferguson. As president and founder of the PRC, Karen was a tireless advocate for securing workers' hard-earned pensions and played an integral part in making the Butch-Lewis Act a reality. Today, we honor Karen's life's work, her tenacity, and the legacy that lives on in all of you. She is so deeply missed, but I thank all of you at the Pension Rights Center for your tireless advocacy on behalf of America's workers and retirees in carrying her torch. Americans have dignity and security because of your advocacy. Thank you all.
Karen was inspirational. She was so persuasive and passionate.
Karen was what we call in Washington a unicorn, something that's very rare but highly valued. She never backed down from a fight, and she was unwavering in her support for workers and retirees' pension benefits.
Karen was such a visionary. She always reached for the stars. She looked for the biggest, boldest solutions to the very thorny complicated problems facing women.
He didn't have a lot of bravado around about her, but he quietly and persistently and tenaciously held to an issue with the brains behind it. So he could provide option after option after option that could lead to a compromise as long as it protected pension benefits.
Millions of workers owe the fact that they're getting what they've been promised, what they worked their lives for, to Karen Ferguson and the Pension Rights Center.
Many years ago, when my pension was being cut, I ran into Karen Friedman and eventually was introduced to Karen Ferguson, K1, and my life was changed forever.
It was impossible for anyone to interact with her and not come out a strong supporter and advocate for enabling people to get their pensions, even when it was not easy to do that.
Because she was so passionate and determined and dedicated to these causes, she provided the technical expertise that was the inspiration for the women's groups dealing with issues, complicated issues, such as widows, survivorship, the Retirement Equity Act, the various tax bills, and of course, the Butch-Lewis Act, which was just more recently passed.
The Pension Rights Center, Karen and the staff under her leadership, the words that I would describe would be caring, steadfast, and consistent.
For decades, she was, and I might say remains, sort of our moral compass for pension and retirement policy. She was always fighting the good fight. And she was a constant reminder that the world could be a better place. She will be missed, but her legacy lives on in the lives she touched and the work that's being done here at the Pension Rights Center.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deb Whitman, Chief Public Policy Officer at AARP, Pension Rights Center board member, and like so many of you in the room, I am a proud pension warrior. I'm so happy to be at this beautiful event and watch this moving video that captures so much of Karen Ferguson's legacy. As Senator Harkin noted, Karen always fought the good fight, making the world a better place, and that is the best legacy that any of us could have. I'm supposed to remind you that if you didn't tape a personal video earlier, there will still be opportunities afterwards. Point the direction that people should go, Karen. That way. Karen was a force of nature and a complete visionary. She will be incredibly missed. But as the song said, there is still a lot of work to be done. Luckily, Karen left her legacy in this organization, and that legacy is very strong. I am a board member, and I could not be happier that Karen Friedman is taking the reins and moving the organization forward. She and the incredible staff will be carrying the torch and continuing to fight for decades to come. AARP has been a dedicated partner and supporter for the last 40 years on so many initiatives that I couldn't even list them all. We work together on retirees, older workers, and spouses. Recently, we funded a Common Ground initiative on women and retirement at divorce to address the challenges that women face when they separate from their spouses. We have joined with PRC on legal and legislative battles and appreciate the deep knowledge and the passion that the PRC team always brings. Tonight, I want to thank all of you who have stood with AARP to support the center in this important work, and especially the RRF Foundation for Aging for its generous and sustaining support, the Administration for Community Living for their ongoing support of the center's legal program and the Pension Counseling and Information Program, which has covered millions of dollars in earned benefits. I also want to give a special thanks to the many law firms and attorneys that have designated the center as their 2022 recipients of significant Cypre awards, including Keller Rombach, Schneider Wallace, Cottrell, Konecki, the law offices of Jonathan Feigenbaum, Cohen Milstein, Mateague Law Firm, James A. Moore, Feinberg, Jackson, Wortham, and Wasco, and Bailey and Glassner. These help continue. Yeah, let's give a thanks to that. I also want to thank the many other law firms and others of you that have supported the foundation for years to come. As Andrew said, the battle for retirement justice is not over. And none of this would exist without the generous donations and sponsorships. And if you haven't sponsored, you still have time. So, on that note, as you're pulling out your checkbooks, we have a lovely video to celebrate all of our sponsors. Thank you. Song. We have a lovely song.
It's very clear, PRC is here to stay, and thanks to you, forever and a day. Our sponsors and supporters here, thank you for saying yes. AARP, Nurses United, Andrew, Stephen, Bruce, and of course don't forget UPS. Thanks to you, PRC is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. Oh, there's Dennis and Ellis, Bailey and Glasser, Chiron, IAM, and IBT, Ralph Nader, Overlook, the Tommies, Readers, Covington, Burlington, let us be what we can be. We go on, but this list is really long. Look at the screen so we can end this song. While the markets may tumble, politicians might stumble, we'll always show the way. Cause with your help, PRC is here to, with your help, PRC is here to, with your help, PRC is here to stay.
Wow. Let's give another warm round of applause. Celeste Crenshaw, Deb Tidwell, and Glenn Pearson and his trio. Wow. I think we are the only nonprofit, except for maybe Theater Lab, that does songs at all their events, and I love every minute of it.
Thank you, Karen. I'm joined here this evening by three of my colleagues, Lynn Dudley, our Senior Vice President for Global Retirement Policy, Jill Randolph, our Senior Director for Legislative and Political Affairs, and Diane Howland, our Vice President for Legislative Affairs. Because we're in the Word Museum, I feel a particular responsibility and a little bit of pressure to find the right words to honor Karen. For those of you who are not familiar with American Benefits Council, we are a business organization. We represent primarily Fortune 500 companies, about 220 of them, plus other large employers, as well as other organizations and businesses that support employer plan sponsors. So it will come as no surprise to anyone in this room that there were relatively few issues concerning retirement policy on which Karen and I agreed. So why am I here? Over more than 35 years of engaging with Karen, I never doubted, and I certainly hope that she never doubted, that we were dedicated to the same common goal: enhancing and expanding retirement security, which of course includes preservation and strengthening of defined benefit pension plans, and also ensuring that retirees receive the benefits that they have earned, hence even our current work trying to address the issue of missing participants. We saw this common shared goal and respected the fact that we simply believed in different pathways to achieve it. I'm personally grateful to Karen for giving me one of the opportunities for a highlight of my career, and that was to nominate her for the Public Service Award of the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans, sort of the premier organization of labor and management dedicated to employee benefits education. And I did so because she really exemplified the old school way of conducting public policy, something that I'm sure you concur with me, we hope to recapture. You all know, and hopefully more of our public policymakers will come to know and to agree again, that we don't make much progress when we only talk with people with whom we agree. So I think the best way for us to honor Karen on an ongoing basis is to do what she did. 3 things: to give others the benefit of the doubt, which enables us to acknowledge that we do have shared goals, to continue respectful dialogue, and to never abandon the quest to find common ground, if not on the current issue in which we're engaged, then on the next one. So I want to thank the Ferguson family, the team at PRC that Karen so ably led in giving us at the American Benefits Council the privilege of participating in this celebration of Karen, and to extend our best wishes and the hope that we will continue to work together for the betterment of retirement security. And it now is my pleasure and privilege to be able to introduce another individual who understands the value and supports the importance of finding common ground and being a good listener, and that is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Labor.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Jim. It's a particular honor to be here, not just at this event, but I think speaking in this part of the program, because it occurred to me, if this were one of the many meetings we had with the Pension Rights Center, this is about the time we would have started the meeting, because this is when Karen would have arrived. So it really, it's kind of full circle thing that's happening for me. For us, everybody in this room understands what EBSA is and what we do, and that our mission is about the retirement security of America's workers. And so you would think that that means that I've never had Jim Klein's experience of disagreeing with Karen. I have. She's was a woman of very, very strongly held opinions. And I much preferred the times when we had meetings when everybody agreed with each other. That was a very, very pleasant experience. I will remember for many years the times that we disagreed. But it really underscored for me the importance of an organization like the Pension Rights Center. Many of you have heard me say I'm not someone who believes that government, EBSA, the Department of Labor, me individually, has all of the right answers to any question. But it is through engagement with the people in this room and the multiplicity of viewpoints that I see when I look around the room that we actually come up with good answers. That we come up with solutions like the Butch Lewis Act. that the Pension Rights Center played such a critical role in enacting. And I would just say, we have our version of the pension counseling project, and I think the work that we've been able to do with the Pension Rights Center through our benefit advisor program has really been one example of how working together we're able to achieve so much for the workers and retirees that we all care about. And maybe the one thing I'll say in closing is, I think today, and pretty frequently since Karen's passing, I've been thinking a lot about her legacy. And her legacy is in part the fact that we have people with such diverse viewpoints, people who I've never seen agree with each other, but we actually are all here in agreement on one thing, which is the legacy that she leaves, the important role that the Pension Rights Center plays in our system. And I just would encourage you to all kind of use this opportunity to think about how you can further her legacy and really continue to fight this battle, because there's unfortunately a lot more that needs to happen on the retirement security front. Thank you.
Those were beautiful remarks, and Ali, also, I just want to say that yes, the Pension Rights Center, we don't agree with everybody all the time, but we really engage in common ground initiatives. We, as Deb had said, our initiative on women in retirement at divorce to solve the Quadro problem. There's about 20 to 30 people, diverse organizations that we're working with on that issue, and we welcome diversity of opinions on that. The next video means a lot to us and will mean a lot to Andrew, and it would mean a lot to Karen, because as most of you know, the Pension Rights Center would not exist if not for Ralph Nader. And Karen worked with Ralph in the Public Interest Research Group in the early 70s, and Ralph gave Karen a check for $10,000 and told her to start her own organization, and the rest is history. So I now present to you Ralph Nader.
It's hard for people to believe that trillions of dollars in private and public pensions didn't have a single advocacy group in the country, especially in Washington. So the Pension Rights Center was the main advocate year after year, working with unions, retirees, legislators, drafting legislation, advising lawmakers in Congress, and informing the press about a subject of enormous magnitude and impact, retirement savings for tens of millions of people, that the media thought was dull. Well, the Pension Rights Center begged to disagree. Karen Ferguson really had a perfect civic personality. She had knowledge. It was accurate. She had passion behind her advocacy. She was congenial. She never shouted to get her point across, had a good sense of humor, worked very well with people, inspired them. She had patience. She had stamina. She kept up to date. She didn't get discouraged and didn't get distracted. Those are all the elements of a civic personality. And she also gave people credit. She didn't want to be the center of the limelight at all. And I hope we'll be able to find a knowledgeable biographer to write a biography entitled Karen Ferguson and Her Times, to be an inspiration and an instruction to the younger generation.
So now, it's my great pleasure to introduce all my friends from the National United Committee to Protect Pensions, the retirees who worked with us in coalition with allies here. Well, Davey's going to thank you all, to help pass the Butch-Lewis Act, which truly, I said this earlier, but it was one of the greatest accomplishments of the Pension Rights Center and so many of you in this room. And I was so happy that Karen was alive to see the passage and enactment of that law. So I would like to bring up Kenny Stribling, Davy Grubbs, Dana Vargo, and Cindy McDaniel.
Thank you, Karen. My name is Kenneth Stribling. I am president of the National United Committee to Protect Pensions. And I'd like to introduce each and every one of these people here who are part of this organization. Our Vice President, Davy Grubbs, our call him late for dinner, Bernie Anderson, who's our treasurer, but he's very important to us. We got our Director of Communications, Madam Secretary Dana Vargo, and of course, the lovely Cynthia McDaniel out of Kansas City. Well, thank you. It is my honor to be standing here, lost for words, after all these other elegant speakers, and I mean, how do you follow this? But I have to thank Karen. You mean so much to us. And our good friend Norman, who's always available. And I'm telling you folks, we're just not saying this. Norman was available day and night. We could call him any time of the day. Even set your watch, hey Norman, I don't forget what time it is, but I gotta call you. So, the Ferguson family, you had a lovely mother. I remember my first time that I met her, she encouraged me to speak up because I was quiet, I was scared, like everybody else, like I'm scared now, talking to all these beautiful people in here. But she says, go ahead, you'll be okay. And I am okay now. So, thank you, Pension Rights Center, for all you've done, for all the retirees out here who know they have retirement security for the rest of their lives, and our future retirees. So without any further delay, I just want to go ahead and say thank you again to the Pension Rights Center. There's always a special place in my heart for you.
And you'll always have a special place in mine.
Thank you. Mr. David Grubbs.
Hello, everybody. Davy Grubbs. I just stepped up here. I have to follow these people with these perfectly prepared speeches that know exactly what they want to say. That's not me. So I do want to tell you that I personally, my family, my friends, we're all benefactors of the Butch-Lewis Act. It has saved our lives. And we can't say thank you enough to the people who helped us pass this bill, who helped us get there. And before I start thanking people individually, I want to thank someone who hasn't been thanked properly, I believe. And we talk about Karen Ferguson and Karen Ferguson's life. And if you listen to Karen Ferguson's bio, she's a Ivy League graduate from Harvard University with a law degree. She could have written her own life story. She could have been anything she wanted to be, went anywhere she wanted to go. She could have had riches beyond her imagination. But she chose to take her talents and apply them to regular, struggling people. And we can't say thank you enough to her. And thank you to Andrew and your family for sharing her with us, because we know we took her away. It took a lot of different entities to move Congress. Anyone who's ever worked on the Hill understands nothing moves quickly. Some things never move at all, or at least you don't see them moving. But a lot of entities and corporations helped us, you know, and just a few off the top of my head was the IBT, International Brotherhood of Teamsters. They were there for us. The IAM, AARP, UPS. We all had a common end. We didn't necessarily agree on how to get there, but we all wanted to get to the same place, and we all found a way to get there together. And I can't say enough thank yous to those people. But there are other people that no one thinks about, and that's the people in our committee. The American citizens who have never stood up, who have never fought for anything, but they were slapped across the face when someone told them they were taking away 70% of their pensions that they had worked for. Those people come alive. Those people learn how to be advocates to our government. They learn how government works. They learn to write letters, to email, to speak in public. And those are our members. And I can't say thank you enough to those people who learned how to make their government work for them. And we give our government all the credit to the people who are in elected offices. We give the credit to our senators and our congressmen. And they cast the votes, but they're very, very, very busy people. They really have a hard time of keeping up with the day-to-day activities and what's going on. They're totally dependent upon the people who work in their offices. We call them their aides. They're much more than their aides. But there's people who went above and beyond to help us. People like Kendrick Isaacson, who's here. Thank you, Kendrick. Kevin McDermott. Kara Getz, I don't know if you're here, I haven't seen you, but thank you, Kara. We could go on and on and on with the people who helped us, but I would like to give them the recognition because it's the people who work behind the scenes, the people behind the doors who make things happen in Congress. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your evening. Good thing. Miss Dana Vargo, this is the grease that keeps our wheels turning, I promise you.
There's so many things I could say, but I think the main thing that I want to tell you is that our pension warriors, being, truck drivers and mechanics and warehousemen, I mean, they had no clue what we were getting into, but we didn't have a choice. And thank God that we found pension rights and Karen to help us with this. And thank God we also had Mike Walden that formed the NUCPP. We had Rita Lewis, who was the rock. And unfortunately, they weren't able to be here tonight because they would want to express their thank you. But, we have so many people to thank, and we are forever grateful.
I'm Cynthia McDaniel, and I am with the Missouri-Kansas City Committee to Protect Pensions proudly, and a National United Committee person as well, and I'm very proud of that as well. But I just want to say what a wonderful world it would be if we were all a Karen Ferguson. If we were all a Karen Ferguson. Have a legacy, what she's got is amazing. But she understood when we had our pension fight going on, she understood what it was going to happen to our families and our communities and our churches that we couldn't give money to anymore. There was so many big things to think about other than it just was going to happen to our pensioners. She was the one that got us going. She understood that we could be the activists that she knew we could be, and we stepped up to be that, and we were proud of her, and I think she was proud of us, and we are proud of everybody in this room that had anything to do with the pensions. And I'd like you to stand up if you had anything to do with the pensions, and let's give you a hand. Everybody.
So Karen was what happens when you cross Don Quixote with a little engine that could. She expanded the realm of the possible. She was a miracle worker who worked to make supposedly impossible things, such as the Butch Lewis Act, happen. I first met Karen 40 years ago when my then boss, Paul Berger, also for a time my pen name, took me to a panel discussion of multi-employer plans, where he and Karen were among the panelists. Karen was memorable. She somehow came across on a serious, if not exactly stodgy panel, not only as brilliant and passionate, but as caring and kind. She really believed in what she was doing. She had magic and charisma. I remember then thinking, as a 26-year-old, I want to be like her when I grow up. 5 years later, after I started teaching law, I sent Karen a draft article on something called pension plan revisions, which the Pension Rights Center was working on it. Karen called me immediately and asked me if I could fly to Washington the next day to work with the center in its effort to change the law. My wife is sitting here, wasn't very happy about that invitation. But I began working with Karen and the Pension Rights Center that day and have ever since. To me, Karen was a colleague, a boss, a brilliant writer, an editor, a role model, a teacher, and friend. To quote E.B. White and Charlotte's Web, she was in a class by herself. It is not often that someone comes along who is a true friend and a good writer. Karen, like Charlotte, was both. It's now my pleasure to introduce another of my heroes, Dennis Dreith. Terry Deneen and I were assigned to the incredible, rewarding task of working with Dennis and some of his fellow musicians to prevent MEPRA benefit cuts to their pensions, and then working with them and others to make legislation happen that would save the pensions of more than 1 million workers. And during that process, I learned that musical ability seems to run in tandem not only with math, as I'd heard, but also with legal analysis. Indeed, Terry once mentioned that if he had a legal problem, he thought he might turn first to Dennis or Steve Nathan or one of their other colleagues that we had the pleasure of working with before even thinking about going to a lawyer. I concurred. Terry, by the way, for those of you who know him, couldn't be here today, but he asked me to express his greetings. Karen already mentioned a few of Dennis's musical accomplishments, and that he, along with the incomparable Ellis Hall, wrote, produced, and recorded with 13 other wonderful musicians tonight's theme song and tribute to Karen, Everyday Hero. I don't have the time to list all of Dennis's accomplishments, but my 18-year-old self has to mention that he toured and recorded with the Beach Boys. So, Dennis?
Before I go in, I do want to acknowledge a couple of my colleagues who are here tonight. I'd like to acknowledge Thomas F. Lee, President Emeritus of the American Federation of Musicians, and Jay Rosen, who's a prominent violinist in Los Angeles, a former board member of Local 47 AFM, officer of the Recording Musicians Association, and a pensioner. So you're probably wondering, why are all these musicians here? What do we have to do with any of this? But you look at the names on the list, and I think what you see is a lot of names in bold that you've never heard of before. And even though we work with a lot of famous people, we're really like the everyday working families in America. We rely on the pension funds for our benefits. When our pension fund was in serious trouble, and we were facing literally catastrophic cuts, and these people were here for us round the clock and did an amazing job for us. So when Karen called me and asked me to do a musical tribute, my only question was, how soon do you need it? And because I couldn't possibly say no, and nobody can say no to Karen anyway. It's not, you can't. It's not in the cards. And Ellis and I wrote this song, and we put out a call to the musicians. And I will tell you that we're asking people who are the A-list musicians in our business, people at the top of the game, who are way over scale, working with the best people, to come and work for free and play in this song. And the hardest part was weeding it out because we had more people who wanted to play on it than we could possibly have roles to play. It was an unparalleled response I've had to this. I did have a few criteria for it, however. Every musician had to, one, be an exemplary musician. They each had to be receiving their pension, and they had to have faced serious cuts of their pension had we not had the rescue plan, the Butch-Lewis Act. So with that, that's how Everyday Hero came to be. So I just want to say thank you. It's our love letter to the PRS and our thank you to you folks, because you've been nothing short of spectacular in our heroes.
So, thank you very much. So, Andrew, do you want to come up? I just want to do a toast. We've said everything that needs to be said. So, I just want to say to Karen Ferguson, and a very long, long life for the Pension Rights Center and all of us. And that's let's toast, and then we're going to start the video.
Karen.
Here's just Karen. Karen.
Karen.
Ever shining like the moon or the sun, effervescence here for everyone. Vision, inspiration of what can be. Through winds of change displaying constantly. Connection of a everyday hero tonight. Ocean revelation driving the day. Wrapped in struggle, trouble fade away. Lesson learning from the ones who know. All of us contain the transformation through the love unfolds. Jubilation, our reward bestows. Every day, here and tonight. Perseverance and the faith to believe. True persistence when your eyes don't see.